Hello, and welcome back to SERA English. I am so happy you are here with me today. 17 episodes. And every single time I sit down to record, I think about the same thing, the extraordinary diversity of the people who listen to this podcast. Different countries, different languages, different reasons for being here. And yet, all of you connected by this one shared hunger for English. I find that genuinely beautiful. And today, the person we are going to talk about understands that kind of connection deeply, because she built a career on it. Her name is Billie Eilish. She is 24 years old. She is one of the most streamed artists in the history of recorded music. She is the winner of multiple Grammy Awards and 2 Academy Awards, and right now, in July 2026, she is everywhere. Her concert documentary, directed by James Cameron, was just released. Her new album is one of the most anticipated releases of the year, and she is consistently one of the most searched people on the planet. But here is why I chose Billie Eilish for episode 17 of SERA English. Not because of the awards, not because of the streaming records, and not because of the sold-out stadiums. I chose her because of the way she communicates. Because she does something that no other artist of her generation does in quite the same way. She whispers. She gets quiet. In a world of maximum volume, of the loudest voice winning, of screaming for attention, Billie Eilish leans close to the microphone and goes soft. And the world, every single time, leans in to hear her. That is the English lesson of today. Not just what words to use, but how to use them. How quiet, specific, honest language creates more connection than any amount of noise ever could. So let us begin. Part 1. Who is Billie Eilish? Billie Eilish Pirate Baird O'Connell was born in December 2001 in Los Angeles, California. She grew up in the Highland Park neighborhood, a creative, artistic community with parents who were both actors and musicians. Her father played guitar and piano. Her mother was a songwriter. Her older brother, Phineas, was already writing songs and playing in a band before Billie reached her teenage years. She was homeschooled, which gave her freedom that most children in formal education never have. The freedom to pursue what fascinated her without the structure of a rigid curriculum. She studied dance, she studied music, she studied acting, she studied the things that called to her. And from the very beginning, what called to her most powerfully was song. At the age of 13, she recorded a song called Ocean Eyes. She had not planned to release it publicly. She recorded it in her brother's bedroom on basic home equipment for her dance teacher, who wanted to use it in a performance. But Phineas uploaded it to SoundCloud, a music-sharing platform, in 2016. Within days, hundreds of thousands of people had listened to it. Within weeks, it had gone viral. Within months, she had signed to a major record label. She was 13 years old, still a child. And the thing that had captured the world's attention was a 4-minute recording made in a bedroom, in a whisper, about seeing someone with ocean-colored eyes. No big production. No team of writers. No marketing strategy. Just 2 siblings, a microphone, and a completely honest piece of language. Her debut album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go?, released in 2019, became one of the fastest-selling albums in history. She won the Grammy for Album of the Year, Song of the Year, Record of the Year, and Best New Artist, all 4 major categories, in a single night, at the age of 18. She remains the youngest artist in history to achieve that. She then won the Academy Award for Best Original Song twice, first for the James Bond theme No Time to Die, and then for What Was I Made For, from the Barbie soundtrack. And now, in 2026, with her concert film directed by James Cameron just released and a 4th album on the way, Billie Eilish shows no sign of becoming quieter, in any sense of the word. Part 2. Our first vocabulary word, intimate. The first vocabulary word today is the word that best describes the quality of Billie Eilish's music and communication. The word is intimate. Intimate means very personal, very close, sharing something private and real. An intimate conversation is one where you say things you would not say to most people. An intimate performance is one where the performer seems to be speaking directly to you, personally, even in a room of thousands. For example, she wrote her diary in an intimate way, as if speaking to a trusted friend. Or, Despite performing to a stadium full of people, Billie Eilish manages to create an atmosphere so intimate that many fans describe her concerts as feeling like a personal conversation. For English learners, intimacy in language is something worth pursuing. Not in a formal or elaborate way, but in the simple sense of saying what you actually mean, using words that actually fit the feeling, allowing the person you're speaking with to feel that you are genuinely present with them. The most intimate English is not complicated English. It is honest English. And honest English is accessible to every learner at every level, starting now. Part 3. The Moral Story. The Girl Who Drew with a Needle. Before we go further, I want to share a story with you. A quiet story, befitting our quiet subject today. Once, in a large city full of painters, there was a young girl named Lena. Lena loved art more than anything in the world. But she had a problem. She could not paint on a large scale. Her hands trembled when she held a big brush. Her compositions became confused when she worked on a large canvas. She tried for years to paint the way the famous artists in her city painted, bold, dramatic, large, and every time, she felt that her work was wrong. Too small, too delicate, too careful. One day, an elderly artist visited the city and was shown around the galleries. He admired the large, dramatic paintings, as everyone did. But on his way out, he passed through a small corridor where some students had displayed smaller work. And there, nearly hidden behind a larger canvas, he found one of Lena's pieces. It was tiny, no larger than a postcard. She had worked with the finest needles, creating thousands of tiny marks that built into an image of extraordinary detail and depth. A woman standing in a doorway, light falling through a window, the specific crease of a worn cotton dress. The old artist stood in front of it for a long time. Then he asked who had made it. Lena was brought to him, nervous and certain she was about to be told once again that her scale was wrong, that she needed to think bigger, work bolder. Instead, he said, "This is the most honest work in the entire gallery. You have not tried to fill space you did not need. You have only put what belongs here. That is not a small skill. That is the hardest skill of all." The moral of this story is one of the most important lessons in all of art and in all of language. The most powerful communication is precise communication. Not the most words. Not the biggest voice. The most carefully chosen words, placed exactly where they need to be, with nothing extra. Billie Eilish has always worked this way. She does not try to fill space she does not need. Her lyrics are specific, spare, and honest, and they are devastating because of it. Now, let us take vocabulary from this story. The word spare means deliberately simple, using only what is necessary and nothing more. Spare writing uses few words, each one chosen with care. Spare design uses few elements. A spare room is empty of everything unnecessary. For example, her style was spare and precise. Every word in the document earned its place. Or, Billie Eilish's vocal delivery is spare and controlled, which makes the moments when her voice rises in intensity all the more powerful. The word delicate means very fine and intricate, requiring great care, easily broken or damaged. A delicate thing is not weak, it is precise and refined. For example, the relationship between them was delicate, built on trust that had taken years to develop and could be broken easily. Or, learning a new language requires a delicate balance between studying formally and simply absorbing it through experience. And the word devastating means causing great pain or destruction, but in a positive artistic sense. When we say something is devastating, we mean it affects us very deeply, sometimes to the point of tears. For example, her performance was devastating. Everyone in the audience was moved. Or, the specificity of Billie Eilish's lyrics is what makes them devastating. She does not say, "I was sad." She tells you exactly where she was, exactly what she saw, exactly how her body felt, and it is that precision that breaks you open. Part 4. The language of whispers and weight. There is something very specific that Billie Eilish does with language that I want to examine today, because it is directly relevant to how you communicate in English. She uses simple words. Not because her thoughts are simple, her thoughts are extraordinarily complex, layered, and emotionally precise. But she has understood something that many beginners in English instinctively do, but then try to grow out of. Simple words, placed in the right order, with the right feeling behind them, carry more weight than complex ones. Consider the difference between these two ways of expressing the same thing. The first, I experienced profound emotional disorientation upon your departure. The second, when you left, I did not know what to do with my hands. Both express the same pain of losing someone. But the second one, the simpler one, is the more powerful.
Because it is specific.
Because it is physical. Because it gives you an image, a person standing somewhere, not knowing where to put their hands, that you can see and feel. This is Billie Eilish's genius. And it is available to you in English right now, at whatever level you are at. You do not need elaborate vocabulary to say something that lands. You need the right words, often the simplest ones. Our vocabulary word here is visceral, which we touched on in a previous episode, but which deserves a closer look today. Visceral means producing immediate physical, gut-level emotional responses, so strong that you feel them in your body before your brain has processed them. For example, the ending of the film was visceral. The audience sat in silence, unable to move. Or, good music, good storytelling, and honest language all share this quality. They bypass your thinking brain and reach something deeper. Billie Eilish creates visceral responses in her listeners not through complexity, but through truth. The word restrained means controlled, moderate, deliberately held back, not going to extremes, exercising self-control and expression. For example, his response was restrained, two quiet sentences when everyone expected an outburst. Or, restrained language is often more powerful than extravagant language. When you say less, what you do say carries more weight. And the word subtext means the underlying meaning of something, what is really being communicated beneath or behind the actual words spoken. Subtext is what is unsaid, but felt. For example, their conversation was polite on the surface, but the subtext was clear. They had not forgiven each other. Or, great writers, great speakers, and great learners of language all develop sensitivity to subtext, the ability to hear not just what is said, but what is meant. Part 5. 5 vocabulary words from the world of emotion and honesty. Let me give you 5 vocabulary words today that will help you talk about emotion, communication, and the inner life with real depth and precision in English. The first word is melancholy. Melancholy is a deep, quiet sadness, not the sharp pain of grief, but a gentle, persistent, thoughtful sadness that sometimes accompanies beauty. You can feel melancholy while watching a sunset. You can feel it reading an old letter. It is sad and sweet at the same time. For example, there was something melancholy about the empty school in summer, beautiful and sad and full of absent voices. Or, Billie Eilish's music is often described as melancholy, not despairing, but thoughtfully, beautifully sad in a way that feels comforting rather than devastating. The second word is introspective. Introspective means looking inward, examining your own thoughts, feelings, and motivations. An introspective person thinks deeply about their inner life. For example, after the difficult year, she became more introspective, spending long evenings writing in her journal. Or, Billie Eilish is deeply introspective in her songwriting. Her lyrics are essentially a public diary, honest and searching, never settling for easy answers. The third word is candid. Candid means honest, direct, and open, not hiding or disguising the truth. A candid conversation is one where people say what they actually think and feel without performance. For example, she gave a candid interview about her struggles, and people respected her for it enormously. Or, the most candid English you will ever speak is the English you use when you are not performing fluency, when you are simply trying to communicate something real. The fourth word is haunting. Something that is haunting stays in your mind long after you have encountered it. Lingering, difficult to forget, with a quality of beauty mixed with something slightly unsettling. For example, the melody was haunting. She found herself humming it days later without knowing why. Or, Billie Eilish's debut album was described by many critics as haunting, the kind of music that stays with you, that follows you into quiet moments. The fifth word is sparse. Sparse means thinly scattered, not dense, containing very little. A sparse forest has few trees. A sparse crowd is a small one. In language and art, sparse means using very few elements to create meaning. For example, the stage design was sparse, a single chair, a single light, and her voice. It was more powerful than any elaborate production. Or, Billie Eilish's music is deliberately sparse in its instrumentation, which makes every sound that is present carry enormous weight. Part 6. 5 Idioms from the World of Quiet Power. Now, let us move to our idioms for today. 5 expressions that native English speakers use regularly, all connected to the theme of quiet power and honest communication. The first idiom is, less is more. This means that having fewer things or doing less can be more effective or beautiful than having or doing more. Restraint and simplicity are often more powerful than excess. For example, she edited her speech down from 20 minutes to 5, believing that less is more when you want people to actually remember what you said. Or, Billie Eilish built her entire aesthetic on the principle that less is more, in her lyrics, her production, and the way she presents herself publicly. For English learners, this is genuinely freeing. You do not need long, complicated sentences to be understood. A short, clear sentence is almost always better. Less is more. The second idiom is strike a chord. We used this in episode 13, but it is worth revisiting in this context. When something strikes a chord with people, it resonates deeply. It touches something they already feel but have not yet found words for. For example, her speech about belonging struck a chord with every person in the room who had ever felt like an outsider. Or, Billie Eilish's first song struck a chord globally because it was so specific and personal that, paradoxically, millions of people felt it was about them. The third idiom is, wear your heart on your sleeve. We visited this in episode 11, and it belongs again today. To wear your heart on your sleeve means to show your feelings openly, without hiding them, to be emotionally visible. For example, he wore his heart on his sleeve in the letter, telling her exactly how he felt with no pretense or protection. Or, Billie Eilish has built her entire career on wearing her heart on her sleeve, showing her anxiety, her self-doubt, her joy, her grief, all of it, publicly and without apology. The fourth idiom is a still small voice. This phrase, which comes originally from the Bible, refers to a quiet, gentle voice that carries profound wisdom, as opposed to the loud, dramatic, obvious voices that demand attention. A still small voice is easy to miss if you are not listening carefully. For example, in all the noise of the meeting, it was the still small voice at the back of the room that offered the idea everyone eventually agreed on. Or, Billie Eilish is, in many ways, a still small voice in the music industry. Quiet, specific, personal, and millions of people have chosen to listen very carefully. The fifth idiom is cut through the noise. This means to be so clear, honest, or powerful that you are heard above everything else competing for attention. In a noisy world, the thing that cuts through is usually the thing that is most real. For example, in a media landscape full of exaggeration and performance, his simple, factual statement cut through the noise immediately. Or, Billie Eilish cuts through the noise not by being louder than everyone else, but by being more honest. And in a world full of noise, honest is rare enough to be remarkable. Part 7. What Billie Eilish teaches US about language learning. Now, let me draw the direct lines from Billie Eilish's philosophy to your English journey, because she offers something genuinely new compared to what we have discussed in previous episodes. The first lesson is, start before you are ready. Billie Eilish did not wait until she was a polished, trained, adult musician before she began sharing her work. She started at 13, in a bedroom, with basic equipment, for an audience of one. She did not wait until she was ready. She began, and readiness came from the beginning. The word provisional means temporary, not yet final, in place until something better is available. A provisional plan is one you make before you have all the information. A provisional version of yourself is the version you inhabit while you are still growing. For example, She accepted that her current understanding was provisional, not wrong, just incomplete and always evolving. Or, think of your English right now as provisional. It is not finished. It is not complete.
It does not need to be.
It is good enough to begin, and beginning will make it better. The second lesson is, specificity creates universality. Billie Eilish writes about the most personal, specific experiences of her own life, and the result is that millions of people around the world feel she is writing about them. The more specific your language is, the more universal its effect. The word universal means applying to everyone, experienced by all, crossing cultural and personal boundaries. Something universal is not generic. It is not vague. It is specific enough to be true, and true enough to belong to everyone. For example, grief is universal. Every culture, every language, every century of human history has found ways to name it and to share it. Or, when you speak English with genuine specificity, describing your real experience, your real feelings, your real world, your language becomes more universal. People recognize truth. They lean into it. The third lesson is, emotional intelligence is a language skill. Billie Eilish's success is built not just on musical talent, but on emotional intelligence, the ability to understand, name, and communicate feelings with precision and honesty. In English, emotional vocabulary is often one of the last things learners develop because textbooks and courses focus on functional language first, greetings, directions, professional communication. But emotional vocabulary, words for how things feel, why they matter, what they mean, is what allows you to have real conversations. Deep ones. The kind that matter. The word emotional intelligence means the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, and to recognize and respond thoughtfully to the emotions of others. For example, she was not the most technically skilled manager, but her emotional intelligence meant her team always felt understood and supported. Or, as your English grows, develop your emotional vocabulary alongside your technical vocabulary. Learn the difference between lonely and isolated. Learn the words for the specific texture of your inner life. Part 8. Review and Close. We have spent a beautiful episode together today. Let me bring everything together before we go. Our vocabulary words for episode 17 were intimate, very personal, very close, sharing something private and real. Spare, deliberately simple, using only what is necessary and nothing more. Delicate, very fine and intricate, requiring care, easily broken or damaged. Devastating, causing great pain or emotional impact, deeply affecting. Visceral, producing immediate, physical, gut-level emotional responses. Restrained, controlled, moderate, deliberately held back. Subtext, the underlying meaning communicated beneath the actual words spoken. Melancholy, a deep, quiet, thoughtful sadness mixed with a quality of beauty. Introspective, looking inward, examining your own thoughts and feelings. Candid, honest, direct, and open, not hiding the truth. Haunting, staying in your mind long after you have encountered it. Sparse, thinly scattered, containing very little, deliberately minimal. Provisional, temporary, not yet final, in place while something better develops. Universal, applying to everyone, crossing cultural and personal boundaries. Our idioms for today were: less is more, fewer things done with care are more effective than many done carelessly. Strike a chord, to resonate deeply with people, touching something they already feel. Wear your heart on your sleeve, to show your feelings openly, without hiding them. A still small voice, a quiet voice that carries more wisdom than the loudest one. Cut through the noise, to be so clear and honest that you are heard above everything else. 14 vocabulary words. 5 idioms. 19 new tools for your English today. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with one image. Somewhere in Los Angeles in 2016, a 13-year-old girl sat in her brother's bedroom and pressed record. She was not ready. She did not have a plan. She was not trained in how music careers are supposed to begin. She had a voice, a song, and the specific feeling she wanted to share. That was all. She whispered. And the world, all of it, leaned in. Your English is that whisper right now. It might feel small. It might feel unpolished and provisional and not yet what you want it to be. But it is real. It is yours. And the people around you, the ones who matter, the ones who are listening properly, they will lean in to hear it. Do not wait until you are ready. Begin. Less is more. Candid is powerful. And the still small voice, spoken honestly, will always cut through the noise. I will see you in episode 18. This has been SERA English. Thank you so much for being here with me today.